Today, we're going to talk about year-end marketing messages for nonprofit fundraising. So why is year-end marketing important? Well, we know it matters, but here's a quick review. A majority of donations come in at the end of the year. In the month of December, in the very last week, and even up to the last day, you get a larger influx of donations. And it's a giving season, so people are already primed to give. They're already thinking of which nonprofits they want to give to, and they want to try to get it in before that December 31st deadline to get their tax deductible receipt. So with all this in mind, having very intentional messaging that helps align with people's desire to give already and what their motivations are can help increase their potential to give more. So we'll talk about 5 different marketing messages that you can use in your campaign for the end of the year. And if you stick with me to the very end, I'm also going to tell you 3 different ways that you can implement these messages. So what should we say in our year-end messages? Well, here's a quick rundown of what we're going to cover. The first message is see what we accomplished, and this covers a review of the stats. Second is remember your story, and this is a featured narrative from the year that you're going to share. Third is the holidays are hard, and this leans into empathy and relevance during the holiday season. Fourth is start the new year strong, and this is where you vision cast new projects. And finally, get your tax deduction. This is really applicable towards the end of the year as you approach that December 31st deadline. So the first marketing message is see what we accomplished. This is going to be a recap of what your organization has achieved this year so far. This is a great time to emphasize your stats, and especially if those stats are higher than the previous year in terms of what the reach you're able to have or the impact that you could have. And in this message, it's important to emphasize that this is only made possible by generous donors like you. This is where you really need to thank your donors and acknowledge them for their support. And then to bring this message home, your appeal is going to be help us finish strong. So you've already done a lot of great work this year, and you're going to tell your donors to help you finish that work and to really fulfill all the goals and the impact that you had intended at the very beginning of the year. The second marketing message is remember this story. And this is where you pick your best success story from the entire year. The one that really pulls at the heartstrings, the one that's super inspirational, very hopeful, and really captures the impact that you as a nonprofit makes. So then you want to take that story and tie it into your stats. So you say something like, well, there are many more stories just like this. And you run a stat about the number of people or things that you've impacted throughout the year. So you always tie it back to this story. This story is a representation of stats. It's everything that you've already done, and now you're taking it further and saying there's more to do just like this story. So help us continue doing that. The third marketing message is the holidays are hard. And this is where you create relevance and empathy by connecting it to the holidays, because that's what everybody's thinking about. That's what is on everybody's minds. So first, you want to open with wishes for happy holidays. But then you make the connection by saying that there are other people who aren't going to be able to enjoy the holidays the same way you are. And the framing behind that depends on what issue your nonprofit works on. And so whatever issue that your nonprofit is tackling, trying to resolve, those are the issues that those families face. And so those families or those people or whatever it is isn't going to be able to experience the holidays in the same way. And so you create that disconnect. So then you bring it all together and connect the narrative by saying that by your donors, your supporters helping to solve this problem, they are helping those people make it through the holidays. The fourth marketing message for the end of the year is to start the new year strong. This usually works really well in the last week or two of December when most of the holidays have passed and people are starting to think about the new year. And in this marketing message, you show optimism for the new year by sharing new or expanded projects. By doing this, you can demonstrate growth for your nonprofit and demonstrate that you have vision for your nonprofit going into the future by planning to reach more people. Here you can propose rough budgets for the upcoming projects that you have. Talk about what those projects will involve, how many people you're going to be able to reach, how many problems you're going to be able to solve if you meet these budgets. And then you ask for help to hit the ground running. You want to start the year with ambition in doing more great work. And finally, the last marketing message is get your tax deduction in. Now, a tax deduction deadline usually works well in the last 3 to 1 day of December. And it works best with higher end donors who have higher incomes and are actually thinking about how a tax deductible donation can offset their taxes. So it's really important to emphasize that December 31st midnight deadline so that people who have been thinking about it will actually take action to make that donation on that day. So let's review the 5 different marketing messages for the end of the year. See what we accomplished, which is a review of the stats. Remember the story, which is your featured narrative. The holidays are hard, which creates empathy and relevance. Start the new year strong, which vision casts for new projects. And get your tax deduction, which emphasizes the December 31st deadline. Now, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, there are 3 different ways that you can implement these marketing messages. And they apply to all forms of marketing, from social media to email marketing, to your blog, to your website, to ads. First is to send out each of these messages in its own appeal. So you might send out a series of 5 emails, and each email will focus on one section. The second way to do this is to overlap them. So you might start with one, and then you mention the next, and then in the next message, you talk about that one, and then you mention the next one. So for example, we'll do emails again because it's the simplest to kind of understand this. You might have one email that talks about your stats and your overview, and then you hint at a story that represents these stats. And then in your second email, you talk about that story, and the focus of is that story. And then you hint at the next message, which is, there might be other people who are experiencing the same thing during the holidays. And then finally, the third way to implement these messages is to combine a few of them together in a single theme. So for example, you might pick 3. You might pick stats, a story, and vision casting for the new year, where you, in one message, all in the same theme, maybe you're addressing a very specific issue, you talk about the stats and what you've already done. Then you share the story of a representation of that stat, and then maybe vision casting for that new year, you're expanding the project in which these stats and this story is in. And so all that comes together in an email, maybe in a landing page on your website, or in a blog post. And these messages aren't linear. You can mix and match them in any order, although some may work better at different times during December than others. So if the slides that I shared were helpful to you and you want to use them for your own, you can actually download a copy of them. It's in PowerPoint, it's completely free, and it's fully editable, so you can swap out content and info as you need to so that you can present it to your own organization. Just go ahead and click the link in the description to get that PowerPoint. Thanks so much for watching. If this video was helpful to you, give it a like. And if you want to see more nonprofit marketing videos, please subscribe to this channel. My name is Steven with SparkFlow, and I help small nonprofits in their branding and marketing. I wish you all the best in your end-of-year fundraising efforts.